Thank you, Jennifer. So today we're going to be talking about the on-ramp to the cloud and how ready is your organization. And many organizations do not completely understand how to execute transitioning to the cloud, particularly your applications and existing workloads. So it's critical to help the current environment and how to organize that environmental data by application so you can analyze it and help you complete that migration to your cloud provider of choice. So, business is powered by the cloud nowadays. Cloud computing has come a long way in a very short time, and it's important to assess where the cloud technology industry is moving and how your company fits into that picture. So whether it's to improve efficiency, enable innovation, or even transform your business, you need to understand those rapid innovations in IT, and you need to quickly learn and understand how those technologies will create business value services for you and how to continuously deploy applications to address those business needs. And this kind of expedited transformation is only done through advanced operational cloud systems. So there's obviously a new pressure for direction and strategy in a lot of organizations, and cloud migration can seem intimidating. Companies can overspend on cloud by as much as 94% in some cases and still not see a smooth transition. So with ever more options in the environment and those raised expectations around speed, cost, and scale, and your business productivity and growth agendas, and also not to mention existing contracts around services and hardware and assets that you need to renew on a yearly basis. So you need to look at your overall organizational needs, economic trends, and technology drivers as you start this migration to the cloud. And it's been proven time and time again that this data center modernization through cloud technologies have given businesses the opportunity to become more secure, more mobile, and more cost effective, and most importantly, stay competitive with your competitors. So application complexity is exploding, whether or not you have applications in the cloud now or you host them on site or some kind of co-location. The complexity is increasing on a daily basis. It's not as simple as a simple client-server model that we used to use in the early 2000s. So over time, these application architectures and operating environments are exploding in complexity. And these shifts have been good for application developers, but it's very difficult for just general day-to-day and just administration and management of these applications. So a good place to start understanding the application architecture is to assess what you have and ask some key questions around what's being done. So is the application web-based, for example? Is it built with a service-oriented architecture? Is it modular? Is it monolithic? And if it is modular, can you break it up into modular services? And then is it monolithic, 2-tier, 3-tier, et cetera? And how does the application scale out or scale up? And what are the demands? And most importantly, what's the impact to this application moving to cloud computing from both a requirements perspective and on the demand? Is it going to increase the demand around the number of users for your application? So let's take a look at today's landscape. And you can no longer look at the cloud from a distance if you want to compete over the long run. You need to understand that the technology is too valuable to pass up any longer. It's something that has to be done. And more businesses are leveraging these solutions for all sorts of tasks. And those organizations waiting too long to do this will find themselves at a severe competitive disadvantage. And you don't have to be the first adopter, but you don't want to be the last. So every year, you own less of what you use. This is just a general trend in cloud. And here's some applications that many of us use: Spotify, Amazon Kindle, Netflix. They kind of exemplify this. So possession is not as important as it once was. You can borrow and lease or rent things with all the benefits, and you don't have all the disadvantages. And we like to call this a magical cupboard. Virtual cupboards are infinite. So through this cloud environment, you have an endless selection of gear, whether it's servers, security appliances. There's advanced technology, and that's allowed this, and that's the internet web phone world. This is really driving this environment. And you can get a hold of goods or services just as fast now in the cloud environment as if you possessed it. And the quality typically is just as good or equal to what you can own or may own already. And access is so superior to ownership, and it's really driving the frontiers of the economy. So a little bit more about the cloud, what it is, where, why, and other questions. So the cloud kind of runs our digital lives, and it's dynamically distributed across many data centers, across many regions, across the entire world. And it has some properties that kind of we want to talk about here. So that's that organic healing. It automatically balances loads. It something goes down, it comes back up. And it's spread across many chips in a massively redundant pattern. So we have many CPUs across many data centers all over the world. So while the web is a hyperlinked dock, cloud, I like to think of the cloud as hyperlinked data. And again, there's no single architecture for these clouds. And it's elastic, and you can enlarge your footprint or shrink your footprint in real time as your needs require it. Also, these machines are some of the most reliable in existence. And the bigger the cloud, the smaller the handheld device. And we all experience this on a day-to-day basis using our mobile devices. We can do things on our mobile devices that you couldn't even dream of doing 10 to 15 years ago. So for example, you're watching a movie. If an asteroid smashed 10% of the servers in the cloud, you're probably not going to notice. Another example is Google Docs. The essence of Google Docs is in the cloud, and you can use it and modify documents anywhere. And it's less of an individual's possession and more of a group or more ours. So I'll go out on a limb here a little bit and say the number one reason to put things into clouds is to share data deeply. And we see this from our customers on a daily basis. One of the driving forces behind putting information into the cloud is that other people can access that data and you can share it. And these woven together bits within the cloud are much stronger than they can be on their own. So what's the outlook for your organization? What's it look like? Is it still cloudy, or are you cloud ready? And how do you get to a state of cloud readiness? So I'm going to walk you through the cloud readiness process. And it starts with discovery or collection of data. And within discovery, you'll find the interdependencies between your applications and application requirements, the infrastructure components, server and application dependencies, and what the target destination needs to be in order for it to run as well, or hopefully better than it currently does. So this is an agentless type collection, and it's done with a single virtual appliance, and it scales massively with little impact to your environment. In other words, there's not going to be impact on production servers and applications. And this is true across Windows, Linux, Unix, and VMware environments. So captured data by itself doesn't do much for you. So it needs to be paired with business intelligence. And some of this is done by automated application and application stack grouping discovery. We rationalize the applications based on the customer's understanding. And then we also look at things like client consumption by location. Where is the application most used? Where is it most needed? And also advanced visualization. We use some visualization tools to help you, see what that looks like. And then also we use cloud pricing. That's an important piece of moving your applications to the cloud. What is it going to cost for specific hosting or providers? And so when you have this intelligence, you'll be able to draw all the right conclusions to determine where you're going to put the applications and what servers are good candidates to be moved. Then we also help you consume that intelligence around interactive analytics and self-help reporting modules. So you can do what-if scenarios. If you have multiple cloud providers, you want to put some in AWS, you want to put some in Azure, maybe you have a local regional cloud provider you want to use instead of one of the hyperscale providers. And next is we allow you to act on that intelligence. So it has a systems integration focus. And you can use migration tools like River Meadow, Cloud Endure, and others to actually perform these migrations for you. So this is kind of an overview. I'm going to go to a kind of a migration storyboard here for you to kind of give you a different view of how this works. So there's two sections to this. One is foundational, and you do this for all cloud migrations, whether or not they're public or private. And what you start it with is you're interested in cloud, but I don't know what to move or how to execute. And you need to understand what you have. And then you need to organize this information by application, because that's how you're going to address that move to the cloud, is on an application by application basis. Secondly, we have use case specific items, and this is based on, again, whether that's a public or a private cloud environment you're migrating to. So we classify your applications and see what's easy and hard to move, and why. Do we need disk space? Do we need CPU? Do we need RAM? What are the requirements around those applications, and what makes them easy or hard to move? Then we also want to look at costs, projected costs and pricing and other factors around cloud providers to choose your destination. And again, this can be multiple destinations. It can be a single hyperscale provider, again, like Azure or AWS. And then you want to set up an easy way to get everything into that cloud environment. And typically this is done through one of your partners, and you may already be partnering with one of these cloud providers that can do this for you. And then you want to migrate your applications to that environment. And this can take the form of those tools that I mentioned earlier. You can leverage, you can leverage those migration tools to get your applications in an orderly fashion into the cloud. And then finally, last but not least, you want to monitor and track the changes of those applications that have been moved. You want to know how they're running, how they're performing. Are you getting a good return on your investment? Does it make sense to keep them in the cloud? And whether or not you want to move them back to your on-prem data center or your co-hosted location. So this is a high-level view of the assessment tool architecture that we use. So we're using the cloud to help our customers do these cloud assessments or cloud readiness processes. Excuse me. And you can see here that for the most part, starting down at the bottom, we can assess different architectures, both including SMP devices, Windows devices, vSphere devices through the vSphere APIs. We can also do command line interfaces in SSH, Cisco AXL, and traffic simulations, and also capture traffic flow. This is all collected on site through a virtual appliance that's running within your data center. And then this data is transferred to the analysis layer, which is hosted in the AWS cloud. And all data is encrypted when at rest. So the data that we transfer to that analysis layer is encrypted. And then we also have a presentation layer where we can actually, again, apply that intelligence, take a look at what we have. And again, that's a SSL-protected web interface, again, hosted in AWS. And then there's an orchestration layer that helps us tie all this together. And again, all this is running in the cloud with the exception of that virtual appliance running on site. Now that we do have an alternative architecture where we keep that presentation layer and the analysis layer within your site. That means that your data and any information we collect never leaves your premises. So if you have concerns about security, or you're working with PMI or some other data that needs to be security compliant, then we can take this approach. The basic tool set is the same. It's just the location of those elements of the analysis layer and the presentation layer. So within our data collection, there's a complete data dictionary, and this goes across both network equipment, Windows servers, Linux and Unix servers, and also your VMware infrastructure. And it, collection occurs across all these platforms, including your hardware and software data and operational info, including network connections and protocols. We also collect performance data around the hardware. So we know how much memory and CPU a server is using. We also know what the disk I/O is and network I/O. And again, we use multiple protocols, including SMP, WMI, and the vSphere API to collect this information. So traditionally, when we tried to do these type of assessments, we used what was called a top-down application mapping. This is where you have an entry point, you install an agent, you discover or probe your application, and then you had to discover the dependencies. These were typically agent-based methods, and they were really not scalable for large enterprises, and it was time-consuming. And it required that entry point for each app that we wanted to analyze. Also, they were error-prone. And as it, again, it really didn't scale well. So if you have lots of apps, this becomes very burdensome and difficult to manage. So our approach takes a bottom-up methodology around application mapping. And this reduces a lot of the manual tasks and improves the project efficiency. Also improves the visibility for IT. And much lower risk of missing something. There's fewer gaps. So there's an auto asset discovery that uncovers all the devices in your environment. And then we collect and analyze all the workload data, the applications, services, performance first, before we even look at the applications. Then we take all that data and it can automatically group like applications. We can also go through and do rationalization with your application owners and analysts. We take a look at what's going on in the environment, and we can group servers and resources based on those application parameters. And we can see those dependencies, including the potential network impact between dependent apps, which is important as you start to move toward the cloud, what the network requirements are. So just to kind of review here, our smart cloud readiness enables both business and domain analysis to establish the cloud drivers for your business. And we use a high-level technology design and cloud commandments to help you achieve this. And we use that application profiling and fitment score. In other words, we take a look at application by application and make that decision on how that application is going to fit in a cloud environment and whether it makes sense from a business perspective and what is it going to cost at the end of the day. Then we can also help you plan for that implementation of the cloud services and the migration to the cloud. So we can have a long-term project to analyze all these and get them into the cloud for you. So I just wanted to review some important takeaways for this. So you need to know your app inventory. So it's important to have a good grasp on what your application inventory and the applications that are driving your business. And there's hundreds of these applications with thousands of dependencies that are difficult to untangle. So most data centers have evolved over time, and there's really not a good understanding of the complete application picture. And you might find at the end of the day that some of these applications, just by the way they're built, they don't lend themselves to be used in a cloud strategy without being completely re-engineered. So it's important to get that understanding. Second of all, you need to know your data. After you know your applications, you need to take a closer look into the data you're holding, not only from compliance and privacy issues, but also from security and data management areas. You'll need to know where you stand before you start shuffling data into the cloud. And if you've had any interaction with cloud providers, you know that it's always easy to get your data into the cloud. It's a lot more difficult to get it out. So you always need to evaluate your specific needs and don't rule out hybrid hosting. So that's a combination of cloud and dedicated hosting or a hybrid cloud environment where some of the cloud environment is on-prem. and that can be a right fit for your organization. Also, another area to consider is around your disaster plan implementation. The cloud's not foolproof, but there are ways to protect your data should it go down. And again, multi-tenant clouds go down on occasion, and we've all seen the news articles about that, whether it's Azure or AWS. And so if uptime's crucial, you need to have that understanding of what that disaster plan would look like, even in the cloud. You also need to research the providers. Which provider is going to give you what you need? So after you're aware of your environment data, your environment data and applications, you need to take a look at the broader side of the industry. There's the hyperscale providers like AWS and Azure. There's also regional cloud providers. So this process can not only target the hyperscale providers, but also smaller regional ones if that's what your choice is. So you need to choose a cloud provider based on your needs, not on how popular it is or necessarily the cost, but it needs to fit your business needs. So whether or not you need something that's highly elastic, that can expand in a short period of time, are you going to need additional support and services? Do you need that high availability? And what type of integration do you need with third-party software? So different cloud providers can provide you different things, and they're good at different things. So that's one of those things you need to do your homework on and ask questions from the cloud providers about their availability, their speed, security, and integration before you sign up. And then last but not least, you need to discuss your options, whether it's with a consultant like SMP or internally. You need to understand the differences between your options and be able to weigh out the best one, whether that's a hybrid environment, pure cloud environment, or something else. And typically, to get started, you might want to consider platform as a service, or PaaS, which really works well for front-end applications and websites. And you might decide to use PaaS to limit your capital expenses. And it's really an OpEx play. And you need to develop a new mindset how you're going to use this. Infrastructure as a service also gives you an option to assess the infrastructure itself. And you can use this to use incremental storage services, support new business initiatives. But if you don't have the skill set to use infrastructure as a service, it may not be for you. So there is some system administration experience required, and you have to find those people before you use IaaS. So you may want to consider platform as a service instead. Another starting point might be to add, your software as a service to analyze what your needs actually are. So you may already be using some of those software as a service, something like Office 365. And so when you start asking these questions, it's gonna get you ready to officially begin the cloud migration conversation within your company. And we have a set of predefined questionnaire which can help us identify the business and technical drivers of moving to cloud. And we can help identify those objectives and then identify the technical design and cloud commandments that will help achieve your objectives. So that's all we have for our current session. We do have some time for questions here.
So thanks, Jim. Just a quick, if there are any questions relative to specific unique situations, or you would like to do a cloud readiness assessment, please feel free to reach out to your account manager or solutions@smp-corp.com. And with that, I will open up the lines, so if anybody has any specific questions, they can go ahead.